wondering how I got into this mix.
Hey everyone, this is Derrick Broze with the Conscious Resistance Network, and today I'm excited to talk to a friend of mine and share this conversation with you guys. We're talking with Jason Bassler, co-founder of the Free Thought Project. How are you doing, brother?
Good, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, we actually tried to have a version of this conversation back in May at Libertopia in San Diego, but unfortunately it was too windy and I wasn't able to put that interview out. But I think we probably would still be having this conversation whether or not that interview came out, unfortunately. And of course, the focus today is censorship, and specifically what the independent/alternative media and the United States and really internationally are doing to focus on solutions. You know, my audience and anybody I think who's hearing this is probably well aware of the social media censorship that we dealt with in 2018. And what we're talking about today, what we've started to call the United for Common Ground Summit, is a response to that. And I want to give you a second to go ahead and just tell everybody, you know, what your thoughts, of course, are on the censorship and how you've been directly affected for those who might not know, and then what, you know, led to both of us working on this project together.
Sure, dude. Yeah. Censorship. Wow. It fucking sucks. We've been dealing with it for a long time. It kind of came to a peak October of this year, October 11th, when Facebook and Twitter both coordinated for the same day to remove our pages and accounts. Altogether, we lost about 6 million fans. We were one of about 800 pages and accounts that were taken down that day, others being the Anti-Media, Press for Truth, punk rock libertarians. There's quite a few. They all seem to have the same general theme of being anti-establishment. And I think that was certainly one of the points that kind of tipped us off. And that other fact, just that it was all coordinated on the same day. So it was Twitter and Facebook. And then shortly thereafter, I also had my Tumblr taken down, which I know is kind of funny. Nobody really uses Tumblr. It was one of the first social media accounts that I had, and even that, for whatever reason, was taken down. So there seems to be a little bit of a coordinated effort when it comes to this. And, you know, Facebook is certainly moving the goalposts. They, you know, bait and switch. They brought us all in as being publishers and content creators under the guise that we get reach, the more fans that we established. And over the course of the past 2 or 3 years now, we've kind of noticed that that's the opposite. And so now they're selling advertisers spots in your newsfeed where our posts used to be. And, you know, once we did have so many fans, you know, we took a look back and we saw that the more fans that we accumulated over the past 3 years, the less reach we were having. So back in like 2014, 2015, you know, we had maybe 500,000 fans on our Free Thought Project Facebook page, and we were reaching more people. So this is just, you know, it's being implemented in many ways. There's throttles going on. There's soft censorship. There's just outright banning and blocking and having pages removed and unpublished, like what we've experienced. So it's pretty clear that the establishment has made their attempt to silence us and alternative media. So like you mentioned, this is the way we're fighting back. So I'm really looking forward to this summit that we're putting together, and geez, less than 10 days now.
Yeah, exactly. It's coming up fast. So let's get into that. Let's talk about that. Of course, I will say that for those who've listened to this channel before, you've heard and seen my videos and articles talking about Facebook's connection to the Atlantic Council. If you're unfamiliar with that term, with that institution, please do check out our previous work to learn more about that. But let's focus on the solutions, because by this point, I mean, yeah, 2018 was a big year, kind of a watershed moment for censorship of independent media. But as you stated, we've kind of had these things ongoing where people have been talking about shadow banning and demonetization and this stuff for years. But the majority of people, including those of us who consider ourselves, I'd say, more enlightened in some ways, have continued to use these platforms that have worked against our goals and worked towards our ends. And, you know, maybe, like you said, there's some deception going on where we think, well, the numbers are growing, so we should stick around. But then in reality, we're not actually reaching as many people. And I think that's even more telling of why we shouldn't rely or try to just, you know, find other ways to work with these platforms when these platforms have shown time and time again they're not friendly to our message. Of course, the big struggle is, if we leave Facebook, right, we go just into a little bubble or an echo chamber, and we don't reach the masses. But as you were just saying there, maybe we haven't been reaching the masses and the mainstream normies for a while anyways. Like, maybe people are continuously waking up on their own. And I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but people are waking up on their own constantly anyways. So maybe they're going to seek us out one way or the other. Maybe we don't necessarily have to be in the mainstream square, so to speak, in order for them to find us. Because I know for me, when I kind of had my waking up experience, I discovered all the independent media and alternative media that existed at that time because I was hungry for that information. And, after a while, I started noticing certain sites popping up here and there. I was like, oh, I want to follow that site. I want to check out that site, So I do think that we're going to have a lot of interesting discussions, let's say that. And this is going to be next Friday, next Saturday, January 12th in Houston, Texas, where I'm based. And it's, like I said, loosely called the United for Common Ground Summit. Go ahead and tell everybody, Jason, a little bit about what I don't want to say our kind of requirements, but what are the criteria of a type of activist that we were looking for? Because this wasn't just specifically looking for activists who are voluntarist anarchists like the both of us are, or libertarians, or, one party or the other. Like, we specifically are trying to reach out to a wide net of people, but also somewhat specific. So tell everybody a little bit about the specifics behind this coming together.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it. We're not trying to just have a very heavy presence of just libertarians or agorists or anarchists, which we kind of normally run in those circles. We felt like it was much more important to really spread it out to both sides of the aisle and everything in between. So I think we've done a pretty good job of doing that. So the requirements that we more or less came up with is that they needed to be pro-truth, right? There's plenty of outlets out there that like to exaggerate a little bit, sensationalize. So we wanted to make sure that was one of the fundamental points. Also, anti-censorship, obviously, right? We're coming into this all with the same mentality and mindset, and we understand what's going on. So that's kind of a no-brainer, but also anti-war, because that is such an important factor with us being a common united front on this. I don't know if that's one of those issues that we could really compromise on. And there is plenty of people on the left and the right, contrary to popular opinion, that are anti-war and still hold those values and perspectives. So, I think we have about 75 people on the list right now. I think we have 25 people confirmed to actually show up, at least 30 to 35 people who've committed to doing the digital attendance. So I think we're actually going to have a pretty awesome turnout. And, I think the thing about this as well is that you and I don't personally know how this is going to look. We don't know what the solutions are. We have our own opinions, but we're coming into this more or less using this as an opportunity for all of us to come together, for all of us to put our heads together and see what we can come up with. There hasn't been a better time. And from what I know, since the rise of alternative media through social media, I think this is kind of the first of its kind as well.
Yeah, I think so, because I think that we've all seen or these posts about, man, what would happen if we all got together or had the conversations whenever a few of us do get together. Because I think our friendship is a pretty good example, and I can name, a half a dozen other people that I've gotten close to over the years that maybe initially we sort of knew about each other's outlets or each other's work through the internet, and then one way or another, we end up connecting face to face. We end up, sharing some deep conversations and actually getting to know each other as people. And then when you get back to the internet, it's just that much easier, I think, and the bond is strengthened to work together. And at least that's been my experience. And that was my whole thought behind, the idea of if this was to ever happen. And just a little bit of background and history for those who might be interested. We actually started planning this idea out a couple of years ago, particularly because we thought that in the 2016 election, there was going to be a lot of unhappiness and dissatisfaction. We had no idea that Trump was going to win at that point. It really wasn't about Trump. We just figured hey, they're putting up two crappy candidates in front of people, and, one way or the other, people are going to be dissatisfied. And so we thought perhaps that would be the time to organize an event that could unite people from all fronts and capitalize on that dissatisfaction and turn it into some momentum. Unfortunately, things it didn't happen at that time, but now with both the division that we saw was taking place has become even greater, and the censorship is taking place. So it just seems to be more timely than ever. And yeah, I mean, it could be potentially historic. We really have no idea what to expect. We've essentially we've booked out a local community center, a cultural center here in Houston, and we are going to have 8 hours together on a Saturday for us to brainstorm and for everybody to introduce each other and to kind of share what outlets they represent or who they are as individuals, and then give everybody who wants to speak an opportunity to communicate the solutions that they believe in, or the alternative platforms, or just different ideas they have on how we can all overcome this, because we're not only struggling financially, which many of us have, especially who become dependent on this, or who found like, oh my God, I can spread truth and actually pay my bills on the side. That might be helpful. That doesn't exist anymore. And so it's not only that we're struggling, financially, but then there's the efforts to reach people. I really do pause from time to time and get quite sad to think about all the articles that aren't currently being written on the Free Thought Project or the Anti-Media or Met Press News or Activist Post or Ben Swan's Truth in Media or, the dozen other outlets out there that are credible and do good anti-establishment reporting who can no longer pay their writers. That's what really messes me up, is just thinking like the different perspectives that are not being put out there. And that is exactly why this whole thing is being done. So even if you're listening and you're like, well, I'm not part of the independent media, and I will say this, there are some people, and I think we've kind of had some conversations. I've had friends who are independent journalists who said, people don't care. They don't care that we're suffering. In fact, they think they should get their news for free, and that we should all go get a quote real job instead of just trying to live off activism or these kind of different skewed views that people have. And so it was disheartening, I think, in the beginning to kind of see how some people maybe didn't have so much sympathy, or maybe haven't quite fully understand the importance of what this means for the independent media, whether we survive or not, you know what I mean? Like, and so it's just interesting to see the way people respond. But if you're listening to this as just an audience member, somebody who's followed various outlets that are going to be involved in this, we definitely still need your support, whether that means financially or sharing the articles that do get put out and the videos that still get put out. But we really are hoping to come out of this meeting with some kind of game plan that we can share with you guys and say, hey, collectively, all of our audiences, this is what we're going to do going forward, and this is how you can help. So I'm excited to see what comes of this.
Yeah, and just to take a step back just really quickly, what you had mentioned, we had to lay off 6 writers and 2 social media people who are helping with the social media side of things. And that's, like you said, less articles. It's not only less articles, that means there's less memes going out that's representing our point of view, representing the third party narrative, or just the third narrative in general. It's less videos being made, and to be completely honest, like when I first got into this, I saw a video with you and Adam Kokesh, and you guys were doing some civil disobedience at the airport with the TSA, and that inspired me. And that's one of the many things that inspired me to, co-found the Free Thought Project. So I think it's absolutely critical that we do figure out a way to continue to make money from doing this. That way we can devote more time and energy to making videos, making memes, writing articles, and continue to represent these point of views, which obviously aren't being represented in the mainstream. So, it's absolutely critical that this is happening. And I feel like we have a lot of momentum in our corner right now, especially with all the purges that happened over the past couple of months. I think, we've also got a lot of outlets interested in just covering the summit. So we know for sure RT is going to be there, which is huge. And I think you had mentioned there's a couple of local.
Yeah, I'll be covering it for my local radio show on 90.1 FM KPFT. As I said earlier, Jason and Matt, the other co-founder of Free Thought, along with a few other activists, will be calling in or appearing in studio to kind of talk about why this is important to them. And we just sent out a press release locally, and I have been getting some kind of interested response from other activists and potentially other outlets. And I will say, even going back a little bit to the purge, you yourself spoke with Rolling Stone, and we got some support. And I mean, I think that's probably the biggest, quote unquote mainstream. They're kind of on the edge of mainstream support that we've got related to the censorship and to the purge. So our thinking was, well, maybe if we can drum up some more support for what we're doing here, that might just help the public be more aware that this is even going on. Because I think most people, and I think this is probably something you can confirm, most people who are outside of our particular bubbles or who don't follow these channels are completely unaware that these purges even took place, and when you tell them, they're like, wow, that sounds kind of crazy. I didn't know that. But it's not something that, because of course, the lack of coverage, that most people are familiar with. So it is good to see that we're going to get some coverage from RT. And then, of course, all of our independent outlets, I'm sure will do some kind of, reporting on it, or at least making people aware of whatever we come up with. That's going to be a big thing. Should we go ahead and tease them with a couple of names that are on there, or outlets that we're expecting?
Sure. Why not?
Well, we know for sure. So obviously, Free Thought Project. I think we did confirm that Nick with the Anti-Media will be coming out. I know Sterling Lujan representing Bitcoin.com and kind of his own outlets. Luis Fernando Mises, who some may know from Facebook, and he's run a few different websites. The Emancipated Human. And I know that Abby Martin is not going to be able to attend in person, but she should be recording kind of a video of her own thoughts and ideas. Same goes for James Corbett of the Corbett Report. I talked to Ben Swan last night, and I don't think he'll be in person, but he will be participating digitally at the least. So, those are just a few of the samples. And as far as people we reached out to, we really did try to go across the spectrum from, left, right, everything in between, and put aside some of the issues, as long as these people were people that we recognize that are concerned with censorship, that are anti-war, and that their reporting or their activism is credible and factual. And then I think kind of another common thread that maybe just happened coincidentally is that it seemed like everybody on this list also haven't quite bought the Russia hysteria, that story that's been put out there, and have been skeptical of that. So there are some common grounds between these outlets, even if politically our solutions might be different.
Right. And just two other additions that I'm kind of excited to speak on. We actually have Bill Ottman from Minds, the founder and co-founder and CEO of Minds, which is the alternative social media platform that I personally like quite a bit. They have a lot of good things going for them. They actually got $6 million in funding recently. They have crypto built into their platform, which is great. They're decentralized and open source. So I'm really happy to have Bill involved with this, and we'll be able to pick his brain when we get there, and also just kind of share with him what we think works and what doesn't work as publishers, which is an opportunity we would never have with some of these big mainstream like Twitter, Facebook, social media companies. So that's going to be awesome to have him there. And then also we have Peter Obstler, who's an activist lawyer. He actually just filed a lawsuit in, I think mid-December against Google for censorship. And obviously the lines are kind of blurred there, and it's kind of a gray area. So we're not really sure how that's going to turn out. But just the fact that he's somebody who is willing to represent us, and he's going to be there as well speaking. So that's huge. If we have an opportunity to speak with him and possibly just try to understand what a class action lawsuit looks like with some of this, then I think we'll be that much more informed and that much more momentum. And who knows, that might even be more newsworthy in the mainstream. So
absolutely.
I'm really excited about this.
Lots of exciting developments. And I guess we'll go ahead and leave it there. I just want to say one other thing just to make it clear, because I don't think we've set it up to this point. But so this event we're describing, what we're calling the United for Common Ground Summit, is not a festival or a conference that you guys can buy tickets to. It's not really a public event other than the people we extended invitations to. And we're fully aware that this list of names, that 60 to 75 people that we invited, could look completely different depending on the people who are involved. But Jason and I just decided to just step up and make it happen, but we're not trying to be sort of in control of where this goes or what it leads to. We just wanted to put together an event where, more of a meeting of the minds, brainstorming session where activists and journalists and influencers can come together and put our heads together and see how we can come out of this, on the other end a little bit better and keep reaching new people and keep spreading these messages. So thank you to everybody who's continued to support us. And please do visit thefreethoughtproject.com because it's still up and still exists. And I know that periodically there still is new content coming out of there. And, we're all still trying to do what we can. So don't give up on our content just yet.
Oh, yeah.
Anything else, Jason?
No, man, I just look forward to seeing you, meeting everybody, and seeing what we come up with. I feel like only good things are going to come out of this. I'm certainly ready.
Yeah. All right, everybody. We'll leave it there for now. This is Derrick Broze talking with Jason Bassler of the Free Thought Project. Until next time, remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. Peace.